Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan. Joining me, as always, is Austin the Day Ghost.
What's up?
And we are finally back for more ReQuest. Apologies to the requesters. We've been on a bit of a hiatus, even though we've been doing stuff on the channel. Austin, where'd you go? Oh, there he is. Sorry, you disappeared on my OBS screen for a second, but you were here the whole time. I don't know what that's about. Hey, every time, what is happening? Every time I move this window on top of your window, you disappear, but that's not usually what happens, so I'm very confused. Okay, I'm just going to pop my chat out so that I can see this, and away we go. Anyway, welcome everybody to the show. We swear we know how to make this. Anyway, tonight's request comes from Teddy, who asked us to review, in some ways, the most obscure thing I could think of, and in other ways, Austin, like oddly more mainstream than I was thinking, and actually fills in like a little hole or like a couple of gaps for me in pop culture history. This is My Breakfast with Blassie, which is a 1 hour. I'm assuming this was a TV special. I don't even actually know where this aired. I know it wasn't big screen, but I'm assuming this must have just aired on television. But this was a thing that Andy Kaufman made shortly after the famous wrestling match where he allegedly had his neck broken. We learned a lot later that he actually was injured in that, but that the whole thing was staged and that the injury wasn't anything like as bad as they pretended like it was. So if he needed a neck cast, it was probably for like a week. Is my guess. But Austin, this is actually referenced in the REM song "Man on the Moon," and of course that pretty much that whole song is about Andy Kaufman. But Fred Blassie has a reference in that, and I never knew who that was. And this is finally filling in that gap for me. So yay! I can die happy now. The world is complete now. Everything makes more sense than it did before.
But at the same time, I am the 203rd person to log a review for this on Letterboxd.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's not like anybody's seen this. I wonder how many. I'm sure Andy Kaufman fans are aware of this, but like I'm wondering how many even like diehard fans of My Dinner with Andre even know that this exists. I might have not quite gotten to that when I was setting this up, but this is a parody of My Dinner with Andre, which is, of course, a famous art house film. I would say one of the most famous, quote-unquote, art house films. It got massive traction when it came out. It was hugely critically acclaimed, and everybody knew about this. And it was, like I said, just the year before this. This is a real easy thing to make fun of immediately afterwards because it's not high production value. You don't have to do very much scripting. And this was largely unscripted, pretty obviously. Whereas My Dinner with Andre was actually, as far as I'm remembering, meticulously scripted. I think that the whole thing was written.
Well, there's like 15 minutes where Andy Kaufman is like barely audible, and then he like adjusts his shirt and it clearly knocks his mic back into place.
Oh, right. Okay, I missed that. I didn't have any trouble hearing him. That's really funny though.
Yeah, there's some like really funny micing in this movie.
Welcome, folks, if you're watching live, and I'm not expecting much of an audience tonight, but if anybody shows up, it's a miracle, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Adam March, never seen this, but I really like My Dinner with Andre, also the Frasier episode, My Coffee with Niles. I don't remember that episode. I haven't seen Frasier in a lot of years, but I probably hadn't seen My Dinner with Andre yet, so it probably went over my head that was a parody of that.
Yeah, I saw like the parody episode in Community about that, and the Simpsons joke where Martin's playing the arcade game for My Dinner with Andre.
That's one of my favorite gags in that show. That's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah, we talked about that when we talked about that when we reviewed that season. Austin's wearing his Simpsons shirt. We've been talking about finally getting back to that. And apologies for folks that like that series, how long it's been since we've done a season. Honestly, I just keep forgetting about it, and it's a lot of prep time. and like months will get away from us. And I'm like, oh crap, we really should be prepping for the next one of those. But I always have so much else on my plate. I just anyway, we definitely want to get back to that series, and Austin has been waiting very patiently. Probably to the point where he's like, that's probably just not going to happen again. But whatever.
No, the other day on my feed, season 4 popped up, and it was like a year ago, and I was like, "Oh, it wasn't even that long ago." And then I clicked on it. It's only because it'll be 2 years and like 2 weeks.
That long? Seriously? Okay, I feel bad about that. And we only got to four, and we were hoping to do a lot of it.
Well, when you pitched it to me, you're like, "We're gonna go through all the seasons," which even at the time I was like, "There's no way we're gonna get through all like 35 or 36." I think they're on 37, 36 or
Well, and at
37
some
now.
point,
So
it's hard to imagine we wouldn't just give up.
yeah, no, I,
Be
I
like,
imagine.
why are we still doing this? But anyway, well, we'll stop planning on stream again, and you and I could have a conversation about how we want to handle that. But I definitely want to try to get back to that anyway. So my breakfast with Blassie. Austin, set this up further than I did. Who is Andy Kaufman having breakfast with, and what is this situation, and why should we care? If we should
They're
care.
he's having breakfast with a wrestler named was it like Freddie Classy Bassie? Blassie, sorry, not
Because it
Bassie.
rhymes. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, they're just having breakfast and shooting the proverbial shit, and yeah, that's it. And they interact with some other people throughout the breakfast, some fans, and a pregnant waitress. Sorry, a pregnant Thai waitress, because it's very important that she's Thai because it comes up quite often.
Yes. And yeah, there's some jerks that interact with them, and they also are being jerks, and everybody's intentionally mean spirited and selfish and horrible in this, which is kind of the gag. What is the joke here, Austin, in being a parody of My Dinner with Andre?
Um,
Pop quiz. What's the joke? What's it about?
pop quiz, hot shot. What is the overall joke? That it's a breakfast with Blassie instead of a dinner with Andre.
So you
And they don't have thoughtful things to talk about.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is it seems to me like the joke here is kind of twofold. It's mundanity, whereas My Dinner with Andre is supposed to be. I mean, like there's not any complex stuff that happens in that. It's just a conversation. So in that way, it's mundane, and then it's just two guys sitting around talking about something. But it's fascinating if you find it fascinating, where it's supposed to be about a lot of really interesting philosophical ideas. It gets very existential. It gets very metaphysical, and so the first gag with this to me is they're not talking about anything of substance, and it's not at all thought provoking, and the whole thing is a gigantic waste of time. And Andy Kaufman's kind of bread and butter was wasting your time. And so that's part of the gag with this. The other joke to me, Austin, was first world problems.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
like
yeah, especially with with celebrity culture.
Yeah, because My Dinner with Andre is a couple of guys in show business who have been down on their luck, and their trade is writing and being in plays for the stage, and the main character is like barely getting scraping by at all, and hardly has like $2 to his name, and he's trying to find his place in life. He's trying to figure out what his lot is. He's trying to figure out if he should even still be pursuing the arts at all. I mean, he's a consummate starving artist. And this is Andy Kaufman just every 10 minutes telling you how famous he is and how much money he has. And that he doesn't want
Well,
to.
he was in Taxi.
And that he doesn't want to be bothered by anyone. And I always felt like, and I was kind of surprised by how much of his standard shtick was in this. Like, I think part of the joke also is he's playing himself, because the two characters in My Dinner with Andre are using their real names. But the question all through that for me is how much of this is really them, and how much of it is just kind of fictional versions of them that are kind of an extension of real life. Because I don't think Wallace Shawn was, like, completely broke when he made that movie. He might have been. I don't know. I think he was getting some work. But this
He does
is
say inconceivable at some point, which is great because he was the inconceivable guy.
yeah, but isn't that after that? I don't remember what year that comes out.
No, I think it's before it.
Is it? Because again, My Dinner with Andre is
No.
81. When is?
Oh no, so you're right. That would be before it.
It'd be
Okay.
before it. Yeah.
Well, it predicted it then.
Isn't that funny?
That is funny.
Yeah, I forgot
That
he
makes
said.
it even better.
I forgot he said that in that. But maybe that's the third joke. I already feel like I'm overthinking this entire thing. But maybe Austin, that's kind of the third joke where it's fictitious versions of these people being like really extreme, obnoxious versions of themselves, whereas Wallace Shawn is real thoughtful in My Dinner with Andre about these not being exaggerated versions of themselves, but not exactly themselves. And this is like the people that we have been pretending to be what you know us as. We're going to also be in this, but it's all a lie. Like, I feel like the standard Andy Kaufman shtick kind of only works if you know what he was really like. And to him, it was funny that nobody knew what he was really like. So after he dies, you hear all these stories about how professional he was and how nice he was to everyone, and how he's just playing kind of a long troll game. But the gag is he was not awful like he always pretended like he was. But in this, he is that obnoxious guy he's always pretending to be.
Well, yeah, and he even says like one of his big stand-up bits where he's like, they're yelling at the women at the table next to him, and he's like, "Why don't you ladies go back to the kitchen and scrub the pots and take care of the babies?" Which is like part of one of his big like famous stand-up bits.
Yeah. And it seems like the reason he gets along with Blassie is because that guy is real chauvinist and like he's he's really sexist, and he talks down to the help, and he's in wrestling. The whole time I felt like maybe this is the fourth joke. The whole time I kept thinking, what do these people have in common except they were both involved in wrestling? Like I kept thinking that's all it is.
Yeah.
The
They
closest,
both like breakfast.
the closest they get, like they're in completely different age groups. Like Andy Kaufman looks like he's half this guy's age.
Yeah, if not more.
I do feel like Andre and Wallace Shawn maybe kind of have that, although I think they're probably a little closer in age. But it does feel like Andre is probably older than Wallace Shawn is. I don't know if I'm right about that though.
No, I think he is. Yeah. That
Or
makes
he
sense
feels
to
like
me.
the character that has the most experience, the most life experience.
Yeah, although Wallace Shawn does have no hair, or like
Yes.
very little hair.
Which makes him look older
makes
than
him look
he is
older.
at that time. Well, Wallace Shawn's one of those
Exactly.
guys that's been perpetually 45 for decades.
Exactly.
Richard's Victims just gave us a $20 super chat. Thank you for making this whole thing worthwhile. No, I'm kidding. He says, LOL, you actually did it. I'm going to be honest, it's not the funniest Andy Kaufman thing. I think he is way genially funny than people give him credit for. Sorry, there's a couple typos in here, but the opening voiceover by Kaufman is so funny to me. Yes, it is. Well, I think the bookend is actually pretty great.
Mm-hmm. No, the end bit was fantastic, where he's like, "Oh, so okay." Earlier on, he's talking to this woman, and he's like trying to get her to give him his number, and he keeps calling her Susan, even though that's not her name. Her name's Lynn.
He
And then at
calls
the
her
end,
like 4 different names.
but at the end, he calls her Luann, which is like a perfect mix of Susan and Lynn.
I missed that. That's really funny.
I was like, that's wonderful. And then he's like, oh, but then some guy called me, and it was the wrong number. But I spoke to him until like the wee hours of the morning, and told him about my breakfast with Blassie. It's so good.
That's pretty great. Which is funny because that sounds like it should be the framing device for the whole thing, but it's not like he's been telling this guy that story. Like, that's just an offhanded anecdote at the end of it. We've been actually seeing it happen, and then he's like, and then I told this guy I've never met all night long the story of my breakfast with Blassie. And I'm like, but we had to watch all of it.
Well, it's the bit at the end of My Dinner with Andre where he's like, I went home and I told my wife all about my dinner with Andre.
Oh,
That's
I forgot.
He doesn't have a wife,
I forgot that was
so
there.
He told some random stranger.
Yeah, this probably watches better immediately after having seen that. I think it's been maybe a year since the last time I watched My Dinner with Andre. I finally showed it to my wife, who I don't think got it at all. I think Sarah admired things about it, but at the end of the day, it was just like, this Andre guy's ridiculous. That was kind of her take on it. It was like, he's just overthinking everything, and he should probably stop going on camping trips with cults. Like, it was really funny.
That is great. Yeah. One, I'd never seen My Dinner with Andre, so I was like, it's gonna be weird if I watch this without having seen that.
I'm
So
really
I ended
glad
up
you
double
did,
featuring them.
because I don't think you'd get it. And like, Andy Kaufman's not always about like getting it, of course. But this is a case where it is just a straight up parody, or I should say, he doesn't tell conventional jokes. Like, even when he's intentionally being boring and wasting your time, I think there's usually still a bit where, even if you don't find it like laugh out loud funny, you're like, okay, I get what you're doing. Like, I don't think the gag usually with him is just like, let's all sit around and be horribly bored.
No, I
There's usually
don't think so.
something kind of to it.
Yeah, and in this, it's just like really funny and how mundane everything is, and just like some of the weird lines they throw out. One of my favorite being when they're talking to the waitress about her baby, and they're like, "Oh, like when are you delivering?" Blah blah blah, whatever. And Blassie's like touching her stomach, and he's like, "Oh, like I can feel it kicking, like it's kicking me." Haha. And then she walks away, and he turns to Andy Kaufman. She goes, "That's another one we have to feed on welfare."
That's another one my check's gonna pay for on welfare. Yeah, that was
Oh,
that was pretty
god
funny.
damn.
I think Andy Kaufman, for the most part, does a good job kind of playing the straight man with this, where Blassie
Yes.
is more of the over the top. I mean, they're both ridiculous, but in being a parody of My Dinner with Andre, you have to have the more eccentric guy that's doing most of the talking and the other guy that's taking it in. And if you watch them right next to each other, again, I think what's supposed to be funny about this is, and I say supposed to be because not everybody's going to find this amusing, probably, but but I think part of the gag is supposed to be Andy Kaufman's taking in everything this other guy's saying, and the other guy's just not saying anything.
Yeah, it's Andy Kaufman for the most part is the straight man, but then every now and then you have like an Arrested Development type thing where they kind of switch, where Andy Kaufman is weird in his own way, so Blassie is a straight man for that.
Well, and that intentionally parallels the original movie in the places where Wallace Shawn finally gets to explain himself, and I think that's the closest you get to the passionate sections in My Dinner with Andre where Wallace Shawn actually disagrees with the other guy and gets a little bit heated for a second and is almost like afraid to assert himself. And the closest you get to with this is him going, "No, I want to sign autographs." And then later going, "Actually, no, I don't. I wish I never did that, and I hate shaking people's hands, and it's unsanitary." And first world problems and
He was prepared for COVID.
looking down on the looking down on the little people.
That's one of my favorite, just like mundane bits, is when Blassie pulls out all the napkins. He's like, "I got these napkins from Japan. Here, take one." And Andy Kaufman's like, "Oh, it's dry."
It's
He's
dry.
like, "Oh, we'll have another one." "Oh, it's dry." "Oh, it's dry. I got it in Japan." Like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I guess this is just Andy Kaufman's brand of humor for me, but I almost have to. I don't know how I want to put this. Nothing about this is laugh out loud to me. Like, there's almost no place where I actually like chuckled aloud while I was watching it. I almost have to intellectualize it. Like, almost as I'm watching, have to think real hard about what's going on because it feels like nothing at all, and go, "Oh wait, no, I get it." There is something to this. Like, some of the lines that you're mentioning that are funny, absolutely are, but not always when I first hear them. I gotta like think about it for a second, and not in like they're real complex and layered or anything. But
It's just they're so dry.
It's
Like,
so
you can
dry.
easily pass by as not, humorous. But then when you think about it, it's like, that is a really weird thing he just said.
Which makes sense because Kaufman was so anti-telling jokes. Like, he didn't want to. Again, he defied convention. He didn't want to be pigeonholed. He didn't want to do the same thing that other stand-up comics were doing. So he had his own set of conventions, and his big rule was don't tell a joke. And so it's all performance art.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's just a lot of really weird, mundane moments that are funny. Like, even the bit where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have pancakes," and Blassie's like, "Ah, don't have pancakes. They're bad for you. It's just eating dough."
Yeah,
"Oh, okay. Well, how about French toast?"
it's like
Same thing.
that's the same thing. Don't do that.
"Okay, how about waffles?"
How about
That's the
waffles?
same thing. And the waitress comes over and he's like, "Okay, I'll have some eggs and waffles."
And then, well, yeah, because he goes, "I kind of want waffles," and then Blassie says, "Well, I mean, if you want it, get it. Like, it's fine. You can do whatever you want to do." And I like the part earlier when he says, when he says, "Look, we're friends. You can do whatever you want to. You can get up and do a jig. That's fine. I don't
Oh,
care. Do whatever you want to."
yeah. I forgot about that line. That was great. Yeah, because he goes, "Do you mind if I take my coat off?" "Yeah, we're friends. You can do what you
Friends,
want."
do whatever you want to. Get up on the table and do a jig. I don't care.
Yeah, no, that was great. There's like a lot of lines that I was laughing at in the movie, but I'm probably gonna have a hard time remembering. Like, I feel like I have to watch this a couple times, like, to really drive some of them into my brain. Because that one, like I said, I completely forgot, but that's a great bit.
Well, it's simultaneously exaggerated because, of course, this is not at all what these two people really are. I would hope that's not what Fred Blassie is really like. I don't know anything about that guy, but simultaneously it's exaggerated and also kind of feels like it's really happening because these guys do have a really good understanding of the art of improvisation, like as against just telling jokes and being against like standard convention. Kaufman actually follows both of them improv convention pretty well, right? Like
Yeah.
they're not like trying to top each other the whole time. It's not a lot of escalation. It's not like I say a thing that brings you to a punchline that brings you to a punchline, but it is rules of improvisation in that anything one says the other one runs with. They're never contradicting each other. They're keeping track of a narrative. I don't know how many real honest to God cuts there are in this. It's hard to tell. It kind of watches like they just did 1 hour long take. and it's entirely possible that's how they did this. I know that they didn't just walk in with no plan. Like I said, it was like not exactly scripted. I think there's like bits of it that maybe there were like lines they had in mind. But Kaufman and some girl that he worked with, I'm not sure who, apparently came up with this whole thing like over the phone. And so like, they did come in with a plan.
Yeah, well, on Wikipedia it said that they wrote this over months, which read to me like a joke that they would say in the movie. But I mean, with something like this, especially when one person is a wrestler, I would imagine that you'd probably have to have some sort of baseline in case you're having trouble getting an improv going, and
Mhm.
then you have something to default back into if necessary.
I don't think I ever appreciated the wrestling thing with Kaufman until finally watching this. And then I
Mhm,
felt like an idiot because I was like, oh, the joke is wrestling is all fake.
mhm.
And like
Yeah.
I never really got that before. It always just seemed like a silly thing he was doing to try to get a rise out of people. Like it was so preposterous that with his size, he would go into wrestling and then he's pretending to be a chauvinist pig. And so he's just wrestling women and then trying to prove the point that men are stronger than women. But he's really doing it because if he fights a man, he'll get put in the hospital. That whole joke. But the real joke is all wrestling is fake and anything I do because I'm in wrestling, you should know isn't real, and people bought it anyway. That's
Mhm.
that's the gag with that. I
Oh, he's
guess
jumping straight into like the kayfabe of it all.
I didn't get that until he was talking to this like ex wrestler and now wrestling promoter. Like I never got that about it. This I should also say is the first time I've actually sat through an entire Andy Kaufman anything. I've seen clips of Saturday Night Live and stuff, but most of what I know about Andy Kaufman comes from having watched Man of the Moon and then reading about it to see what that movie got right and what it didn't. Because I've always really appreciated that movie, but and that was kind of my introduction to Andy Kaufman because I was familiar with him and some of the lore, but I never actually looked at any of it. And knowing that some of that had to be Hollywooded, of course. I wanted to know what they made up and what they didn't. The thing I found most fascinating reading up on this, Austin, is the girl that he's hitting on is the girlfriend that he's with until he dies in real
Mhm.
life, and he meets her on this set. So the girl that he's like, that is that Lynn. So, and she's using her real name in this, just like they are.
Uh, When I was gonna say too, and Makira brought it up too, I think she's the one that he wrote this with.
No, she's not. It was somebody else.
Oh, okay.
From what I read, yeah, she plays this role, but it was conceived by, let's see, Linda Lartrek. And Kaufman loosely scripted the film over several months late at night on the telephone. That's a different girl.
Oh, okay.
But he meets his longtime girlfriend. They never got married. On the set. So that like this can't be intentional, of course, but that feels almost like an Andy Kaufman joke all by itself. Isn't that nuts? Where it's like life imitating art, where he's hitting on
He
this
ended up
girl.
with Lynn.
He's hitting on this girl. He's trying to get her phone number. He can't get her phone number. He calls some other random person thinking it's her and rambles on about what happens at this breakfast. And then the girl that wouldn't give him the time of day in this is actually the girl that he got together with and that helped him through cancer and everything. That's crazy.
That is
I
wild.
didn't know
Although,
that.
no, that's insane.
That's my big
Though,
takeaway from this. Is just life imitating art. That's insane.
though the ending is funnier in that the entire time he's trying to get her number, and then at the end he complains that she never called him.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I said, although the ending is funnier in that that entire time he's trying to get her number, but at the end he's complaining that she never called him.
Oh, I
But
missed
that
that.
whole, but that whole scene was like, "Oh, give me your number." And then at the end he's like, "Oh, she must have lost my number. She never called."
I Yeah, and like as much as this is, people in the comments are saying kind of anti-comedy. As much as this is that Andy Kaufman again, I just keep saying like a anti-establishment pushing against convention thing. He's got such an established mode by this point that if you're at all familiar with him, you feel kind of at home with it.
Hmm. Yeah,
If
for
that makes any
sure.
sense, where now it's not like if he had lived and continued, I really wonder uh how his brand of comedy would have evolved, Austin, because he's got a brand at this point. And
Hmm.
at the point where he falls too much into a brand, when does he feel too mainstream and isn't pushing against the grain anymore? Like, what would he have to do to keep mixing things up and surprising people? Because his thing was all about going against expectations. And like at the point where you knew what he was going to do, like nothing that happens in this surprises me, knowing what I know about Andy Kaufman. And this was the last thing he did on film.
Hmm.
At least like as a movie before he died. I I I don't think you would have gotten this stuff much longer. I think he would have had to pivot hard, and I don't know what that would have been, but just I think he would have been uncomfortable with being comfortable.
He'd have to get weirder. Like instead of my breakfast with Blassie, he could do Blassie Park, where he goes to a park filled with Blassie.
Like if he hadn't died, and it's hard for this not to just degenerate into an Andy Kaufman conversation, which is a thing that we haven't really talked about, but or much anyway. If Kaufman hadn't died, I wonder if he might not have considered faking his own death. Especially if people thought he was going to die and then he beat the cancer and then he went,
Hmm.
like I wonder if that wouldn't have happened, because I could have seen him, or even if he hadn't gotten sick, I could have seen him doing it at least for a while, like a few months or something. Because I feel like if he gets too comfortable in a mode, the next thing he does is he, at least for some period of time, buries Andy Kaufman and goes 100% Tony Clifton for a while. Like I really could have seen that happening.
Or he would just pull like a Dave Chappelle and just disappear for like a decade.
Where you just don't see him.
Hmm. Just goes underground.
But I don't think like he liked performing too much. If he goes underground, he's pretending to be somebody else while he's doing it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying I could see him going 100% Tony Clifton,
Hmm.
because there was a period
Become
where
Blassie.
there was a period where people didn't know if Clifton was actually real or not,
Hmm.
and there were like two other people that pretended to be him, and sometimes it was him and sometimes it was the other guys, and then they could be on stage together and stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, I don't know. I just it's endlessly interesting to speculate about this person. I almost want to say this character because he was quite the character. Richard's Victims $10 super chat. Andy Kaufman is one of my favorite comedians of all time. When he's funny, he's really funny to me at least, and even when he's not funny, I find his commitment fascinating. Yeah, I agree with that. It's not to my taste, but he's just interesting.
Hmm. When like I said to Cap off camera, like I do think Andy Kaufman is the granddaddy of like internet comedy and just like that weird awkwardness. And it's not even necessarily something where like a lot of people are like, oh, Andy Kaufman's my guy, I'm gonna do that kind of a thing. But it does feel like he was just kind of weirdly ahead of his time more than anything. Like I said, that napkin joke, if you were to just show that to somebody and be like, look, this was made in like 2020 and was filmed on a potato, they'd be like, "Oh, that's like a funny COVID gag."
Yeah. No,
Hmm.
absolutely. It's weird because it's almost like Gen Z humor decades earlier. Like I don't get a lot of that stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. But I think you're right. I don't think it's direct influence. I think the way Andy Kaufman was influential in his day was more generically just suggesting that you don't have to fill in for formula, and in whatever it is you're doing, you can get away with marching to the beat of your own drum. And there were a few really underground independent artists like that in every kind of medium that became mainstream despite how impossible that should have been to get into, considering especially this being decades before YouTube and social media and everybody having a potential platform, right? Like, I feel like if you look at the early to mid '80s and even some stuff into the '90s, Austin, in every, and we don't have to go through everything, but in every medium, we could probably each come up with an example of a very underground artist who became one of the biggest things in their field. Like Eastman and Laird come to mind. Like doing things real against, or even to a lesser degree, like Ben Edlund with the Tick. Like in comics, we can come up with these things. In music, we can come up with the Weird Al, They Might Be Giants. Like these are all things that were breaking all the rules, and their sensibilities remained underground even as their popularity was mainstream.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
he's one of those pioneers.
one in that group. Yeah, I can see that. I wouldn't have thought to put it that way, but I can see that.
Because I don't know how much direct influence he really has on comedy. I because like who else is doing exactly what how could you do exactly what he's doing?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and then if you're doing exactly what he's doing, I feel like big fans of Andy Kaufman would probably be annoyed that you're just copying him, and people who aren't wouldn't get it.
Just wouldn't even get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like if he was a genius, the way he was in almost like a business genius, in like carving out a niche that nobody else could get into. Like this, getting back to Breakfast with Blassie, it's kind of review proof. As much as I don't like using that phrase, like he doesn't care about fitting into any mainstream mold or formula. So how do you even review it? Like you either find it, like I guess you can review it on the terms of parody. And in that sense, I like yeah, it's an exaggerated and opposite version of the thing it's parodying. So like
Mhm.
it parodies it well. The question is, do you find it entertaining or do you find it insufferable? And even if you find it entertaining, does it fall off for you at some point? Because I was kind of done with it in the last 20 minutes, but like I still
Mhm.
kind of got what it was doing. It's just once it got to the gross out stuff, I was like, I was expecting this. Here it is now. I don't really want to
I think
watch this anymore, but I'll write it out. You know.
I think because it didn't go to that stuff, I wasn't expecting it. Like the guy who throws up on the table, I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this just happened."
I was not surprised by that. I was kind of hoping against hope it wouldn't go that far, but there it was.
No, it was great. It was so just out of nowhere and so like visceral. I'm like, it just looks like a man actually did that. No, I will throw out a hot take in that I maybe liked this more than My Dinner with Andre, but I liked both quite a bit. So it's not like a lot. Like it's not like this is way better.
It's not like you liked this because it was taking something to task that you hated.
No, like I watched that and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And then I watched this and I was like, oh, this is also pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't ask you this earlier because I didn't want to like accidentally launch into just a review of that, but I was curious to know what you thought of that. And like I said, I'm really glad that you watched it.
Mhm. Oh yeah, no, I feel like I probably still would have liked this having not seen it, just because a lot of what really hit me was just the weird like mundanity of it all, and just a lot of the bizarre lines and things, which is just my sense of humor. Like I probably would have liked it anyways, but it did give it like a whole other layer where it's like, okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah, like one wouldn't exist without the other.
Hmm.
And it's the easiest thing on the planet to parody.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, like I said, like I've seen, quite a few parodies of My Dinner with Andre before I finally saw it. So it did kind of click like, oh, okay, I get what they were doing.
So, just real quick, did you find that movie like thought provoking at all?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I maybe didn't like it kind of like went in and out where like there was times where I was like more like interested in what they were saying and then it would kind of dip and then it would like rise back up. But overall, I would say I did.
Did it feel scripted or did it feel natural?
Oh, I no, I thought it was 100% scripted, but like uh it's natural in like a stage play kind of way. Where
Mm-hmm.
like it felt like I was just watching two people on stage like doing their thing. Uh as opposed to seeing a real conversation, but I wouldn't even lobby that as a criticism. Like, I think it works with that.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really like about that is the stage play uh, kind of affect of it, and I think it's really smart that it's about uh, stage directors and writers before it's about movie writers. Like the whole thing is about the stage, even though it is a movie.
Hmm.
It,
Yeah,
it,
definitely.
it is curious that they wrote it as a movie. Like it kind of watches like an adaptation of a play.
Hmm.
It's kind of odd that it's about
Yeah.
a different medium, but it's made for screen in the first place.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if they've done a stage play version, but
I'm sure that's been done.
if they do, just because it would be funny, they should do it as like a musical where like this would make sense.
Well, and I thought with Breakfast, it was they were even parroting it down to the detail of uh, like that really stuffy waiter keeps walking in and we'll get a really awkward close up on him where like Wallace Shawn, who seems completely like out of his element at this fancy restaurant, will look up at that guy and he kind of turns his nose up at him and Shawn will say something polite and that guy will be like, "Yeah, you don't belong here," that kind of thing. And I felt like this was going, let's just go full tilt and like interact with the waitress too much and we'll make this not a fancy place at all in order to be not a dive but kind of the opposite. And she'll be pregnant. We'll make it really awkward by having this other guy kind of hitting on her the whole time, which was messed
And
up
he,
but
he rubs
funny.
her belly, calls her Buddha, and then
he
when she leaves,
he
he goes, "No, you
repeatedly
don't have
calls
to
her
give
Buddha.
her." Well, at one point he's trying to call her, he's like, "Hey, Buddha, Buddha." But there's the part where he rubs her belly for the first time and calls her Buddha, and then she walks away, and he goes, "And I don't have to tip her as much."
Yeah, that was their first interaction. He goes, "Now I don't have to tip her as much." It's like, God, that's messed up. Well, do you remember what he says about the server right at the start of the movie where he goes, "Why are you thanking him? He didn't do anything he wasn't supposed to do."
No, I forgot about that line. That's
And
great.
Andy Kaufman goes, "Thank you." He's like, "Why are you thanking him? He's just doing what he's supposed to do. You're gonna thank him." And he like goes on about it for too long.
This becomes awkward.
And what's great is if this version of Andy Kaufman was a good person, he would have very early been like, "You're being kind of an asshole to all this wait staff." But he's kind of just as horrible as
Yeah,
Blassie
but he
is.
can get away with it. He is from Taxi. He's a really
He's from,
famous actor.
you gotta love Lynn, who keeps going, "You drive a taxi?" "No, I'm famous. I'm on Taxi." She's like, "So you drive a taxi?"
No, I'm a famous actor, and this right here is Blassie. He's a famous wrestler, and all the women start clapping at the table.
Yeah, that was great.
That's wonderful.
It's funnier as we're talking about it.
What's also funny with them because they ask for his autograph. Like they come up and they're like, "Oh, you're Andy Kaufman. Like, can we have your autograph?" And he's like, "Yes." And then they complain about people who do that, and then he just starts berating them, and he like starts overly explaining who he is, even though they came up to him for an autograph. And there's that part where they start passing the autograph around, like, "Oh, well, you can have it back. Oh, I don't want my own autograph. Here, you take it. You asked for it. Blassie, do you want my autograph?"
Well, clearly he's just massively insecure and needs attention.
Hmm. Exactly.
Is the joke. And I think for the real man, there's like probably a grain of truth to the attention seeking thing, just with the business he's in.
Just being an entertainer. Well, it's like I always say, you need like a level of ego to be an entertainer. I think that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be an egomaniac, but like there is like a little bit of it in that kind of attention-seeking way.
Yeah, I I think when you're making comedy about yourself, that's a real natural place to go. Is still in like self-deprecating humor to
Mm.
inflate your own ego past where it actually is. I did that with Spawnier and the creation of Doomsvents, where Doomsvents is like some friction that Vince and I had early on when I was working with him taken to the nines, where I
Mhm.
went I tend to be too particular and a little bit controlling in projects. And Vince and I would sometimes have places where he was real loose, and I had a real specific way I wanted to do things, and and I would realize that I was being a little bit controlling, and so I went, what if I took that and I cloned Vince and I told him exactly everything he had to be as a person, and like that's what Doomsvince was, and so that's kind of what Andy
Mhm.
Kaufman's doing, is that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
for sure. No, I love that kind of thing where you exaggerate how much of an a-hole you are. I mean, I do that all the time.
Well, and then you get into that, and I think that's why Andy Kaufman was so controversial, because you get into that gray area where it's like, are you pretending to be horrible, or are you using it as an excuse to actually be horrible? And Andy Kaufman loved that people couldn't tell, because he knew
Mm.
who he was, and I think to some degree he didn't care what anybody thought of him. And I think he had almost a superpower in not caring uh, about his own reputation, or like wanting to control it to be negative, but he made it that way, right? Because, like I said, it was over a decade before it was made known that the wrestling thing with Lawler was all staged, and that wasn't a real fight on television.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and that blew my mind at the beginning because I always forget that he was a wrestler. Because when I was a kid watching wrestling, he was just the commentator. So when that is like one of the first lines, I was like, "Oh, that's right, he was a wrestler." And I guess he also broke Andy Kaufman's neck. That's great.
Yeah, well, in reading up on this, I didn't realize that the person who went on TV and got to let that news out was actually Jim Carrey. So that happens in '95,
Weird.
and then he plays him in '99. But
Hmm.
like he's the one that reported it
Weird.
on some TV special. I didn't know that.
Hmm. That's really strange.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is fascinating.
Hmm.
I was also my mind was also blown to know that 2 years ago Andy Kaufman was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame.
That's wonderful. I mean, he to be fair though, he did beat 400 women. Uh, so like
None of
eventually he'd
those
have
would
to
have
make it.
been real sanctioned matches or anything.
We still beat them.
Like I never thought of him as a real like on paper wrestler for the WWF or whatever.
Hmm. No, but I mean, I don't know. Eventually, you got to get in
Like
there. He's a
clearly
legend in his
clearly
own
he
right.
can yeah clearly he contributed in a way, but like again that ends up just being art imitating life, where like he goes, "It's all fake, so I'm going to pretend to be a wrestler and see if anybody buys it." And then it's so fake, he gets in the Hall of Fame. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, he gets in there just for the kayfabe aspect. But I hope that because in wrestling games, they'll have like classic roster or whatever, where you have like your Hulk Hogan or whatever, like people who don't wrestle anymore, but like they're like the classic people. I really hope that he's in some of them. I don't think he is.
He is. He's
I would hope.
unlockable
Oh,
in
he is.
something. Yeah, I read about that today
Yes.
too. I don't know what game it is. I think it was
Wonderful.
like mid 2000s somewhere. He's unlockable in something. And
That's wonderful.
Jack's Pacific apparently in maybe the late 2000s I read put out a they were doing wrestling figures and they put out a 2-pack of him and Lawler.
That's great. Well,
That's
in a lot of those
fantastic.
games, you can't like mix and match. Where you can't be like, oh, I'm gonna have I don't know like the Undertaker fight like whatever female wrestler. I hope that Kaufman would be locked up to the female side.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then you rig it so he always wins.
Yeah, no, it's just like in his stats. Like he always wins. He's beaten 400 women already, and he can't be beat unless he fights Jerry Lawler, who is the only male wrestler he's allowed.
He
to
can
fight
fight Lawler and he always loses in 3 seconds.
Exactly. One punch and he's dead.
Let me read these other super chats real quick. Richard Victims, thanks a lot for all the support tonight, man. $10 super chat. One time, Andy Kaufman was supposed to host a live show and introduce a musical band. He just talked about the danger of drugs so long they had to cut to commercial. That's pretty funny.
That's wonderful.
Sorry, I'm not gonging super chats tonight because the gong's way over there, and I didn't bring it over here.
Eh.
Okay, let me see if I can reach it.
It's gonna be a Fargon.
That was a very loud one. Okay, there you go. That's for all the super chats.
That was a Fargon conclusion.
So you always give me crap when I do that kind of a pun, and that was a good pun. And I'm not even gonna roll my eyes or anything because I like that pun. So because you did that, you have to let me make freaking puns, okay?
Well, I just said that was a Fargon, and then I hit that pun hit me, and I was like, oh, I need to make sure I say that because that
You're
is
like,
too good of a pun.
resolve the chord. You had it in your mind, and you're like, if I don't get this out, it's gonna bother me all night long.
Well, in my head, it was the bit in The Simpsons when Bush Senior moves next door, and Homer says something funny, and it goes to his brain, and it's like, there it is, Homer, the cleverest thing you'll ever say, and no one was around to hear it. That was exactly what my brain said when I thought of that pun. So I'm like, I got to make sure it gets said.
So I don't want to get too much into the controversy of the way Jim Carrey handled himself with Man on the Moon, but let me read this super chat. Dan Schneider, $2 super chat. A movie by the man whose ghost possessed Jim Carrey. So I like his performance in that a lot. I like that movie a lot more than Austin does. I do not buy the whole he was like uncannily exactly like Andy Kaufman thing. He does a good impression of him, but like Lawler, speaking of him again, complained about how much of an asshole he was pretending to be Andy Kaufman and that that's not at all what Kaufman was like. And I tend to believe that. So the whole like his ghost possessed him and Jim Carrey, like maybe to Jim Carrey, his real self fell away and something he thought was Andy Kaufman is what he was being for all those months, but it was not close enough to the real man. I'll just say that.
I could rant about it for hours, but no, he is like a gigantic asshole on that movie for a performance that is like in no way Andy Kaufman, but that's whatever.
And that's why I said I don't want to get too far into it because
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm like, because I could just go off, but I'm like, I'm not going to.
well, and you and I can
I'm
argue
keeping it in.
because I agree with you to a place, and then there's a place where we probably divert a little bit because when you say in no way, and like I think that's hyperbolic. Like I think it is a good performance, but you know, like
just think
I think the
in
stage
any way.
performance stuff is really good.
It's one of those things where if you watch Andy Kaufman do it, then you watch Jim Carrey, it's like he does not get that Andy Kaufman is like a dry comedian. My favorite one to go
Okay.
to is the bit where he's like, "Oh, you wash the soap, you like do your hands or whatever." Like it's very dry, and then you watch Jim Carrey do it, and he's like, "You wash the soap," and it's like, "Oh my God, stop mugging, jackass!" Like that's not even how he did comedy. Like you don't get it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and
sorry. Like
no,
I
you're
said,
all
I
right.
could.
Well, and
Yeah.
I'm sure I would feel more that way if I was like more familiar with Kaufman before I saw that movie. Like I have the same thing with that I did with Saving Mr. Banks, where like I loved that movie not knowing anything about the actual history of it. So like I'm
No,
looking at
I think
this
that's fair.
as a fiction first, and
Mhm.
I guess I guess the only reason I'm fighting you a little bit is having now actually looked at some Andy Kaufman stuff, I still like that movie okay. And I feel like I
Mhm.
shouldn't, but I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
no, I mean
like,
that's fair.
I'm going to give it a little more credit than you're giving it, but you're not wrong.
Hmm. No, and I do feel like that movie because for the longest time that was like in one of those like Jim Carrey was always in like the top 10 best biopic performances, and I feel like that's completely gone away. Like I think that movie's kind of dropped off the map at this point.
You think?
I think so. I feel like that never comes up anymore
Well,
unless it's people complaining about the documentary.
I don't feel like
Not complaining about the documentary itself, but like what you're saying, like how he was an asshole on set.
Well, yeah, I don't think it did him any favors.
Hmm.
I was going to say, I think that probably has hurt the reputation of that movie. And
Hmm.
Jim Carrey would probably be in a better light with that if they'd never released it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. That's probably fair.
I do think it's a good documentary, but I wish he
Yeah.
hadn't acted like he did with some of that.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't mean to imply that it's a bad documentary because it's not, but it's just like uh, it does not make him look good in that.
No, I mean, you can have a good documentary about a thing that you don't like, you know.
Exactly.
Like, there's
Yeah,
lots of
yeah.
good documentaries about serial killers. You don't have to like the serial killer.
You don't?
No.
That was like the whole reason.
No, oh.
It's for like their fangirls.
So, what we've learned about Austin is that there are serial killers that he's liked through documentaries while hating Jim Carrey being Andy Kaufman in a documentary.
It's true. It's true.
That's a little
But
messed
then
up
there's people
there,
where it's
Austin.
like, does it count? Like OJ was just trying to find out who did it. Like that's not his fault.
Richard's victims. Put another $10 super chat. Final donation. Thanks, buddy. Really appreciate the support tonight, man. Fun fact: when in talk shows, he was asked to bring in clips of the movies. He just kept bringing clips of random public domain movies and said, "I just that movie," or maybe I just did that. I don't know what that's supposed to say, but
Oh yeah, like yeah, I would guess like I just made that movie.
yeah. Dan Schneider,
That's
$2
great.
super chat. You both need to do. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's really funny. You both need to do a commentary on that movie. I don't know how entertaining that would be for the audience.
Yeah, I'd probably just be me being annoyed. So it's probably not worth it.
It'd just be you being
But
annoyed and me trying to take up for the things I think are still really good with that movie. So we would just be talking at cross. Not that we should never do a thing when we're on opposite ends of it, but I just don't even know what the conversation is. Like, if I find that a believable enough performance and you don't, we're just the whole time going, that works. No, it doesn't. And now we're just children. I don't know.
well, I kind of don't really have anything else to say about it besides that. So it's like you don't want to talk about just like is it a good performance for like 2 hours?
Yeah. There are also some events that are changed around for the sake of the narrative, which I think uh, you can do sometimes to tell a good
Mhm.
story. And having like seen it before I knew that stuff, I was fine with it. But then now that I know, I don't know, it does have a little bit of that Queen documentary thing where it's like
Mhm.
I don't know. Did you have to make? Am I remembering this right? Where they make the big
The Live
performance?
Aid thing.
Well,
Yeah, they make it like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, I'm not talking about with Queen. I'm talking about with
Oh,
this,
sorry. Yeah.
where he has but I guess it's similar. Where I'm trying to remember. I just can't think of the name of it, but he has the big performance where he takes like the entire audience out for milk and cookies afterwards.
Mhm.
That whole thing. That happened in '79, but if memory serves, the movie has it happen after he knows he's dying.
Oh, okay, I don't remember
But I don't
offhand.
know if I'm right
It's been
about that.
a long
But
time.
I think that's right. Bob the Hun,
Yeah, sounds like it.
it only makes him look bad, but he seems so proud of it. That's maybe what makes it worse.
Yeah. Well, and like performance aside, I do think pretending that you got possessed by the person you're playing is like really gross. And there's the whole thing where he like met Kaufman's estranged daughter like under the pretense of like, oh, I'm channeling your father through me, and all that's really nasty. I don't like any of that. I don't think that's cool.
He seems
But
so
that's a whole other thing.
he seems so down to earth in the '90s. Bob the Hun, $2. Well, in the
Well, you
earlier
see
'90s.
Cap. You see Cap. When Andy Kaufman is screaming about how he was on Taxi, he is possessed by the ghost of Jim Carrey, who is not dead.
Oh. Bob the Hun put in a $2 super chat and says, "Why did Jim Carrey release that documentary?" Yeah, I don't think
Is
he
he the
should.
one that released that?
I mean, I was gonna say earlier, I don't know how much of that was his doing, like where he had to put a stamp of approval on it, but I thought he was glad it came out. I don't know. It's been too long, and
Oh.
I don't remember if he did interviews around it or anything like that. But
Well, I guess because that's he said the it makes him look bad, but he seemed really proud. He said that after that super chat, so
yeah,
I guess he was really proud of that documentary. That's really weird.
yeah, that's that taking method acting thing just a little too far.
Hmm.
Yeah, he did do interviews for it. Says okay, great. Well, anyway, as always, we've been talking not about the actual review subject for a while now, but it's at least
To be fair, this is only an
related.
hour, and there's only so many ways you can just be like, "Well, I thought this bit was funny, and I thought
Sure.
that bit was funny."
Well,
To
like I
be
said,
fair,
near review proof. I don't know. I don't know what standard exactly you hold it by.
hmm
Except, I do think it's. I do think it's a good parody.
hmm
But then
just
when
runs
you,
a little thin for you.
yeah, no, certainly. But like, it's a good parody in the sense that, uh, it riffs uh, the right way about it. I guess I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Like it's a good Weird Al song in the sense that it gets what the original intent was and then it flips it,
And it's a good
or it goes in a
long
totally
Weird
different
Al
direction.
song.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing is that it's a really long, but it's mercifully not as long as My Dinner with Andre. Like at least he only made it an hour.
Yeah, that is nice. It's not 2 hours. I think it would have run like really thin if it was like a full length movie like that.
You know what?
Just being under an hour is perfect.
You know what else is kind of funny in retrospect?
What's
Blassie complains that those girls finished their breakfast and then sat around and talked for a long time and are like taking up chairs that somebody else could come in and sit on, and then they do exactly the same thing.
and no one else comes in.
Yeah, that's right. The place
They at
gets
least had
thinned out.
breakfast. I mean, they did have breakfast. They at least had dessert after breakfast.
Dan Schneider, the movie is 53 minutes, not even a full. Yeah, it's not even a full hour. Dan Schneider, this movie is longer than the movie. Yes, it is, but we've also been talking a lot about just Andy Kaufman himself, and
Andy Kaufman in
when
general.
else are we going to talk about that? Yeah.
Hmm. No, exactly. I can't remember who played him, but I liked the guy that played him in the that SNL movie from last year.
I still need to see that.
Yeah, I mean he's not in it a ton, but that guy plays both him and Jim Henson.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't like how they did Jim Henson in that movie, but that's one of those things where I don't know enough about Jim Henson.
Sure. Well, I'll look at it at some point.
Hmm.
Next week, we're going to do something naturally very, very different. I don't know what we could do that wouldn't be very different from this. SS Jerry asked us to do the live action Dragon Ball Evolution movie. I don't know why
Oh no!
I don't know why we have to watch that. And of
Oh, well,
course,
that is like notorious.
isn't that notoriously bad?
Yeah, well, that is to Dragon Ball fans what the Death Note movie is to Death Note fans, but like
Oh,
times 8 billion.
is it that bad?
Well, Dragon Ball fans hate it, which means I'm probably gonna come in and be like, "This is the best Dragon Ball thing ever made." But yeah, no, Dragon Ball fans hate that movie.
And I've never looked at Dragon Ball past the stuff that we did for review, which I liked fine, but
I don't even think I was on that. Was
no, I think
I
maybe I
don't
just did it with Jason. I forget.
Oh, okay.
But it
Yes,
was
I think that's what it was. I think it was like on vacation or
it
something.
was
You
a
guys decided
request,
to do
and it
that.
was a standard request, but yeah, you didn't make it for it. But we watched the first few episodes of
Mhm.
one of those shows.
Yeah, for sure.
And my son Freddie is a like rabid Dragon Ball fan now. Like he's read everything. I don't think he's really watched much of it, but he's read everything there
Like all
is
the
in
manga.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. We're gonna have to bring John on for that one because he loves Dragon Ball. So we need somebody that really likes Dragon Ball to be pissed off about it.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say that's your way of trying to bow out of it, so you don't have to do it.
Oh no, I don't care. I'm perfectly happy to come in and say it's the best Dragon Ball thing ever made.
I can reach out to John though if you want me to, just to have somebody there that actually knows something.
Well, I'm pretty sure his response would be no, but with like an explicit word before no. So
We can try to get Freddie to watch it, but I don't know. I don't know how adult it is.
mhm. I don't think it is. I think it's like just a PG-13 like action comedy movie.
Okay, like if kids can watch it, even if it's bad, I might. I mean, I don't know. Freddie's not. It doesn't have a lot of experience with review. I don't know. I don't know what he'll say if he comes on, but I can maybe try to get him to come on for it.
I think it's Aaron Paul, I think is the lead to that movie, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I have no idea.
Richard's victims cap. Why must you never react to my non-donation comments? Do you just see me as your money man? I didn't notice that you'd left a lot of other comments besides uh, the super chats. But yeah, I mean, I'm not we'd be here all night if I responded to absolutely everything. But yeah,
He wants us to do a 3-hour
sorry
show
about
just
that.
reacting to random Kaufman facts. That would be funny.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. He says Jim Carrey did a good performance, but I don't think he's a good Andy Kaufman. If that makes sense. Yeah, and again, and he asks if you agree with that.
Probably to a lesser extent, but like sure, I can see that.
Well, anyway, thanks a lot for watching, guys. We're gonna go ahead and get going. I don't know how we did over an hour on this, but it's us. That always happens.
We did it. Uh, and Makira says that John is a 90s Dragon Ball Z dub fan, so his opinions don't matter. And Dan Sten says, thankfully, Evolution is only 82 minutes. So that's nice.
Well, folks, we appreciate you. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again real soon for more. Tomorrow night, Austin and I are unfortunately doing a commentary on Superman Returns, and I blame Austin for this, but that's the next Rewind commentary. So come in and look forward to that.
No, I guess not last night. Today, I said to you, I'm watching, because you were watching Superman Returns, I was watching My Dinner with Andre, and I joked that My Dinner with Andre is more action-packed than Superman Returns. My Breakfast with Blassie might actually be more action-packed than Superman Returns.
That's amazing. It might be. All right, everybody, we appreciate you. We're going to get going. I was Captain Logan. This is Austin the Day Ghost.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, folks.